Good everyone, Organized video, and today we have a Spade review on the Lincoln B Mark II. Now, those of you who have flown with me in the Discord server, and I think I mentioned it in the Lancaster review, I don't remember. Um, you may have realized that, well, Joe isn't a fan of the Lancaster, and he wasn't looking forward to the Lincoln, because obviously this thing is basically a beefed up Lancaster, to put it simply. However, it turns out that I was actually rather wrong about this thing. It was actually rather fun to play. Now, to some of you players who have seen me spade the Lancasters and obviously flown with me as I spaded the Lancasters, you're probably thinking, Joe, you're losing the plot. And, well, no, I'm not. Trust me, you'll see. Now, the Lincoln was developed after the Lancaster, and subsequently, it keeps a lot of its family's looks. The wings are a bit longer, but otherwise the fuselage is relatively the same, the tail section is relatively the same, and the back turret is actually the same as the Mark III Lancaster. But obviously the main difference, I mean, you can see the family resemblance, but also there are a few other key differences. As you can tell, there are different engines. They are still Rolls-Royce Merlins, but they are different models. The models we have on the Mark III are the Merlin 28s, and on the Lincoln we have the 68As. These produce a lot more power, they have four-bladed props, so the plane climbs a little better, and allows the plane to just have that bit of extra speed that the Lancaster just didn't seem to have, in my personal opinion. The Lancaster, especially the Mark I, really struggled to get anywhere and couldn't even climb to save its life. The Lincoln can at least climb to some extent. I mean, it's a four-engine heavy bomber. You're not exactly going to be doing that sort of thing. Now, the one thing I have noticed about the Lancasters and everything is that they don't have rudder control to save their life, which you would have thought that would be possible given that there's a twin boom setup. However, the Lincoln does actually have a rudder, and this thing is actually rather maneuverable. So before I get into its maneuverability and everything, I'm going to go over the defensive armament. So to start us off, we have a twin 50 caliber nose turret with pretty good coverage. I mean, there's certainly better coverage I've had. Cough cough B17G. That actually has better coverage than this. But I mean, 275 rounds. To say you're not going to be using nose guns that much. I mean, I did a couple of times, but even so, it's sufficient for what you need them for. So 250 cals, decent depression, decent elevation. They're pretty okay. Obviously, being a Lancaster, we only have one pilot. Well, a Lancaster-based aircraft, we only have one pilot, so he doesn't exactly have a lot of armor because, again, the Lincoln was designed to fly at night. So there you go. But here's where it gets interesting. Two 20mm Hispano Mark V cannons with 380 rounds apiece. Now these suck when they're stock in typical Hispano fashion, and they actually do spark, which, well, they're Hispanos, they don't work on bombers. But if you load up armored targets, they're actually pretty effective. I've had more than my fair share of them. And obviously in the back we have a twin 50 caliber tail gunner. I don't know why I said nose gunner. With 1,515 rounds, a very odd ammunition choice. And that actually has saved my bacon more than a few times. The twin 50 cals they're not the best, but they are certainly going to do some damage against radial engine fighters such as LA9s. There was one case where I was intercepted at like 26,000 feet by a pair of LA9s, and I was actually able to shoot down one of them and cripple the other, while still being able to somewhat escape with what little control I had left of the aircraft. Let's put it that way. Because, well, Russian 23mm. Now, the only thing I noticed that was wrong about the Lincoln was the fact that the fuel tanks, well, I say wrong, more like it's just Gaijin fucking over bombers. But this thing doesn't like fires in the fuel tank, but the engines are fine with fires for some reason. I took an engine fire on more than one occasion, and both times it went out. So you never know, you might get away with engine fires, but fuel tank fires I never did. But otherwise, it's pretty well armored. Well, not armored. Armed is the one I was looking for. And with the engines it has, it's able to get up to higher altitudes if you're fighting Russians, to the point where they may not even get up to unless they only have if they have an I-225, which apparently that thing got nerfed, but I'll have to see what Flight says about that. But to be honest, nothing else really changes from there. Obviously, the armament's changed a bit, the engines have changed a bit, and the overall look of the airframe's a bit changed, and obviously the long wings. The bomb loads don't really change. They're 14 250-pounders, they will not kill a base. You then get 14 500-pounders, they will kill a base. 6 1,000-pounders, they'll kill 2 bases. And 14 1,000-pounders, which can kill all 3 bases and then drop a couple on the airfield. So there you go. Obviously universal for the 12-7s in terms of the belts that you should run and the armored targets on the 20mm. Otherwise, it wasn't too bad. I mean, this thing's not the most durable aircraft, especially around the tail, but that's mostly with bombers these days. But I still had a lot more fun in this than I did the Lancasters, even though this thing's at 6.0, which it really shouldn't be. Let's put it that way. It is not worthy of 6.0. Let's put it that way. So in terms of how I did, 18 matches to Spade it, 55% win rate. Allied teams weren't. I mean, they were okay for the most part. 8 deaths, 9 kills, 32 grand, and probably in the region of about 10 to 15 bases. Pretty simple, really. It's just one of those bombers where you don't expect it to be fun, but I had fun in it. So you never know, you might have some fun with it. So just see how it does for you. But anyway, let's get into the replay and let's have a look at what I got up to in the Lincoln. Now, looking at the combat and the history of this vehicle, it didn't do a lot, let's put it that way. The only combat, that's why I put it in quotation marks in case you couldn't tell. The only bit of combat that I saw it had from a couple of sources was where a trainer version, which had no guns on it, got intercepted by a flight of MiG-15s, and obviously being a trainer, it didn't have any guns, so it wasn't exactly a fair fight. And even then, if it did have the guns, I would debate if it could do anything. If you do happen to have anything that refers to the aircraft having more combat history, because I can't find it for shit, please do let me know, because I literally couldn't find anything. It was like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It's kind of annoying. So in this battle, at this time, I was around 3/4 spaded, and this battle got me almost spaded, let's put it that way. So obviously the bomb load I'm carrying is 14 1,000-pounders. Very good bombs. They only require 3 to take out a base, whereas the American bombs take 4. So that way you can do more damage over the long run. The other bombers on my team are a B-29 and a B-24. The B-29 is going to get shredded, and so is the B-24. I technically do get shredded. I don't know what happened there with the cloud stand, if you saw that. But 17-minute battle, but most of my contribution will happen in the middle. Because as you saw on the replay card, I got a couple of air kills, which I really shouldn't have gotten. Let's put it that way. So, let's skip ahead, just to get us on the move. So we are in a we're in a 6.3 game, because the enemy team does have a single Arado, which, to be honest, I would not be complaining about that. And to be brutally honest, this team wasn't particularly great, but neither was the enemy team, to be brutally honest. They just didn't seem to do that much. So as you can tell, I am side climbing with this Lincoln. I'm trying to get up as much altitude as I can before actually doing anything, because the Lincoln seems to function just fine above 21,000 feet, which is where I currently am. But obviously, since I'm still climbing, yeah, it's going to take time. And obviously, here comes the 335. However, he's actually missing an engine. He's he's gone for a B-29 and obviously underestimated the fact that I am going to throw this thing around if I get the chance. So here we go. Now what you'll notice is during the turns, I kicked the rudder and I also used the aileron to obviously stop the plane from ripping itself, because it can't take many G-forces. And with the rudder control being the way it is, you can actually do that. And although this thing's a 4-engine heavy, it really can turn for its size. As you can tell, and well, there we go, there's a nice fire for him. And as you can tell, the teams are about even, so doing that has actually just really helped me, because, well, he's in a 335. I kind of need to get rid of him, and not only that, his fire does go out, but he's going to have a bad day getting back to his base, let's put it that way. Unfortunately, one of my teammates in a P-51H is going to be about as useful as tits on a ball hog, as Harry would say. He's going to try to strafe out that 335 as he lands. He does it, but yeah, I don't get the assist, as you can imagine, because, well, Gaijin. But as you can tell, this thing is quite manoeuvrable for its size. It's a bit of a chunker, but she certainly can dance. I mean, you're not going to be out turning Spitfires in it, that's for definite, but it's pretty agile. I've got to give it that. I mean, first flight I had was on this map, and that was just, I don't know what happened there. That was certainly not the maneuver I pulled in the game, well, in the actual battle, but you get my point. And at this point, a 109K4 has decided, yes, this Lincoln's now going to be my bitch. However, he did not expect the armored target belt. He does do some good damage, but if there's one thing you shouldn't do, it's approach a Lincoln from that angle. Because although this is a 4-engine bomber, not only can it take some punishment, but it can also dish out some. And obviously the 20 mils are going back into action, and there we go. Kill number 1. Now obviously I didn't get away with that unscathed, but to be fair, his approach angle was rather poor, so I've got to say what I can about that. So obviously 3 bombs away. I'm still going to get my bombs on that airfield even if it kills me, but even so. And in terms of damage, we've actually taken wing damage, fuselage damage, and engine 3 has lost all of its coolant. So we're going to lose an engine eventually, and well, this thing does not care about losing an engine. I haven't had the chance to test its loss of 2 engines on the same side, because historically the Lancaster didn't like that. Not sure if the Lincoln did, so I'm going to test that and I'm going to get back to you on that. Because I can manually shut down 2 engines, so I'll get back to you on that. Obviously that will depend most likely on the aircraft Spade status. Like, if you're about half spaded, I wouldn't recommend trying it. But it should be able to fly on 2 engines, I would imagine so, but even so, just take it with a grain of salt. But obviously 10 1,000 pounders is not going to be enough to kill the airfield, but obviously I did see a dot which is right here, and I thought that's got to be something. Surely that's something. So I thought if I turn the bomber nice and gently, because obviously the wing damage is affecting this thing quite badly. And yeah, it's the replay messing up, I can just tell. That was not the maneuver I pulled, so there you go. Then obviously dump the rest on the actual airfield, and there we go. That's all the bombs out. Now obviously at this point, the P-51H has gotten the bright idea to go, yes, I'm going to go Vulch, and it doesn't end well for him. I mean, he gets the kill, but still leaves an Arado and a 2A8 that's on the enemy team. To be fair, the one I fear the most is the 288, especially in this thing, but I'm not too particularly concerned about that. It seems that this aircraft doesn't mind taking hits to the wings, from what I've been able to get out of its abilities. It's when you take damage to the tail section, specifically around the tail gunner, is where it really is fragile. So, I know this sounds kind of dumb, but if you're going to get shot in the wings. It might just pay off a bit more, because the tail is fragile. Obviously, with the approach of that K4, he didn't really have a lot of time to aim, because, well, he was getting shot in the face. And most of his shots hit the wing, and obviously there you can see engine 3 starting to smoke a little bit, so it's on its way out, but this thing flies perfectly fine on 3 engines, so it's not a big deal. But the Mustang has just died. He's taken out 335. Well, he's about to take out the 335 in this pass. But as you can tell by the radio, he has just died to the AAA. So now all that's left is me and the Lincoln on 3 engines, well, soon to be 3 engines, and a Tanker Trash F4U7 who is about as useful as Tits on a Mohawk, because that's all he's done. He's farmed ground targets all game. He's not been particularly useful. Anyway, I better skip us ahead, because, well, it's quite a trek back. I mean, the Lincoln's not the fastest thing, and on 3 engines it's not particularly fast either, and there goes engine 3. But in a dive, this thing can hit about 400 miles an hour, so it's pretty fast in terms of a dive. The 234 is actually just J'd out, and the last guy is that 288, who's now bombing our airfield and trying to take out the Corsair. So at this point, I decided, you know what, fuck it. We've got 3 engines working. I don't care. I want this son of a bitch gone. I hate 288s. Now the Airfield AAA has actually done most of the work for me, so it's making my job a little easier. Lincoln Air Superiority Mode engaged. Now obviously with the airspeed that I have, I will not catch a 288 in a Lincoln. There's just no hope for that. But who says I need to catch him when he's going to come right up my nose for 250 cals? Now he turns back and he doesn't really... Obviously he seems to be pretty damaged already, but he's trying to shoot back with his gunnery. My gunnery's better, and obviously its gunners are probably dead at this point. He falls out of the sky, and that is kill number 2 and the end of my contribution to this match, and also the end of the match. So there you go. So like I say, the Lincoln isn't the most amazing 4-engine bomber that I've flown. Obviously I am planning to spade the B-29 soon enough, which I've got a plan of how I'm going to spade that. Let's just say it involves a very detailed Word document or a notepad one. It just depends on what mood I am in, because, well, it's easier for me to just get up notepad, because I literally just have to type in N, because I use it a lot for just general notes. But I've got a plan to spade the B-29, so expect a B-29 spade review whenever, because, well, I don't know how long it's going to take me to spade the damn thing. But like I say, I think the Lincoln is definitely the better one out of the 3 of the Avro brothers at this sort of tier. And so if you are going to spade a 4-engine British Heavy, the Lincoln's got to be your choice. But anyway, I'm going to let you guys off. I hope you enjoyed today's review on the Lincoln, and I will see you all on the next one.